Good evening, everyone. Delighted to see a full house. Welcome to the 2018 Coolidge Award. Thank you for joining us tonight as we honor an extraordinary filmmaker whose remarkable body of work embodies the highest ideals of our award, Michael Douglas. Mr. Douglas joins a prestigious and very select group of artists who have received this honor since the award's inception in 2004. Previous honorees include acting giants Meryl Streep, Viggo Mortensen, and Jane Fonda, legendary film editor Thelma Schoonmaker, directors Johnny Moe, Werner Herzog, and Jonathan Demme, and the great cinematographer Vittorio Storaro. They are a very diverse group representing a broad range of artistry, but they have all changed the way that we watch films. And the act of watching films is one of the many things we're here to celebrate tonight. For the past 85 years, the Coolidge Corner Theatre has used cinema as a vehicle to entertain and enlighten audiences, to create memories and community. And it is that commitment to building community through film culture that has sustained us through the decades, as we have evolved from a grand movie palace to a repertory house once slated for destruction, as many of you may recall, but saved by the community, to the beloved, thriving organization that we are today. So thank you all for your support, past, present, and future. We would not be here without this community, and we are very grateful that you choose to support our independent nonprofit theater. I'd also like to extend special thanks to some key individuals who have been instrumental in making tonight happen. They are longtime Coolidge board member Rick Larson, the visionary behind the Coolidge Award, Vita Palladino, director of the Howard Gottlieb Archival Research Center at Boston University, and Coolidge board member Chobi Hoy for coming up with the idea of bringing Michael here and putting the wheels into motion. The generous support of sponsors listed in your program, with special thanks to Barbara and John Lee, and of course the incredible Coolidge staff who create and deliver remarkable programs 365 days a year, and I underline that, 365 days a year. And now please join me in welcoming the force behind today's thriving organization, our Executive Director and CEO, Kathy Tallman.
Thank you, Michael. And before I say anything else, I just have to say that Michael Douglas is about the nicest man you'd ever want to meet. He has been an absolute joy to be around, and he's been so generous, and you'll all enjoy hearing from him so much. I'm so happy to see all of you. I'm so happy to share this very special event with you, honoring the work of an extraordinary artist. And thank you. We couldn't do what we do without you. So hooray for all of you. The Coolidge Award recognizes a film artist whose work represents original and outstanding contributions to cinema. I'm thrilled that this award goes to an artist with a body of work that spans 50 years and is still going strong. If you haven't checked out the Kaminsky Method on Netflix, you should. It's very fun. Whether studio-produced or independent, each project is uniquely entertaining and provides a window to our culture and often ourselves. We are proud to honor actor, producer, advocate, and humanitarian Michael Douglas. Earlier today, the Coolidge screened to a sold-out audience Wonder Boys, one of Michael's favorite films, with him in a memorable Golden Globe-nominated role. Michael introduced the film and entertained us with a nice conversation afterward, so he's been working hard for us all day. A film about the importance of definitive choices is apt, a big theme in Wonder Boys, given his deliberate choices of roles that defy typecasting. to challenge himself and to make a film that he would like to see, including some that no one wanted to make. Imagine our culture without Cuckoo's Nest or Fatal Attraction. He could so easily have taken the typical movie star roles. Instead, he's taken chances and displayed an incredible range of roles, very often playing flawed and sometimes very unlikable characters that are still oh so appealing and always fascinating, the guys whose bad behavior we somehow find endearing. To quote him, one of the things I'm most proud about in Fatal Attraction is you start off with an audience not liking you. Well, we all know how that turns out. And if you don't, you can see the film here tomorrow night at midnight. Consider just a few examples. A pot-smoking college professor in a pink bathrobe, a very presidential American president, an everyday kind of guy who turns near vigilante, a physicist in 2 Marvel Ant-Man blockbusters, Liberace, and Gordon Gekko, which, by the way, the FBI used to create a public service announcement on white-collar crime.
The movie was fiction, but the problem is real.
A lot of good that did. Many of his films are now cultural landmarks and have brought social issues to the forefront, often with notable foresight. To quote him, "You have to make entertaining movies, but like a good meal, it's nice to have a little food for thought after you walk out of the theater." He's used films to shine light on the dangers of nuclear proliferation, drug addiction, and the downside of capitalism and greed, to name just a few. Again, quoting him, "I'm in an enviable position. When I talk about movies, I can talk about messages of peace and infuse them into the entertainment pages." He does a lot more than talk. A true humanitarian, he is a generous philanthropist and advocate addressing a broad array of issues, including nuclear disarmament, anti-Semitism, human rights, cancer research, gun trafficking, and ensuring that his colleagues in the entertainment industry are supported when in need. Very much so. He's a longtime United Nations Messenger of Peace, and his many accolades and awards include the Danny Kaye Humanitarian Peace Award, Israel's Generous Prize, American Film Institute's Lifetime Achievement Award, 2 Oscars, 5 Golden Globes, including the Cecil B. DeMille, and an Emmy, and countless nominations, including 2 for the highly prestigious Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Actor. Just last night, Michael received the Betty Davis Lifetime Achievement Award from the Betty Davis Foundation and Howard Gottlieb Archival Research Center at Boston University, the recipient of his archive. Some of this archive is on display now at the library at Boston University. It's absolutely great, and you really should go see it. It'll be there till spring. I can't recommend it enough. And now, for a body of work that reflects the Coolidge's mission to entertain, enlighten, and build community around film culture, for iconic screen portraits and films that open our eyes and document our culture, for his unwavering commitment to human rights and global peace, and for doing it all as he wanted to do it, the Coolidge salutes a consummate artist, Michael Douglas. We've got a clip reel to share with you, and here we go.
A friend of mine asked, why are we honoring this man?
Really?
You were incredible.
You come through all the time.
You're incredibly popular.
So we think you're a very talented man.
Legitimately sublime.
Very independent. Does that make you feel good?
Doesn't make me feel bad. Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA.
Bullshit. It's just all bullshit. Don't kick me under the table. I'm not gonna shut up.
Richard, come on.
Now look, have you seen what they officially released? An unanticipated transient? What the hell is that, huh? What is it? It was an accident and we could have been killed.
I'm shooting at a cop. Wait a minute. He's after you. Who the hell are you?
Well, I'm a romance novelist.
You're what? What are you doing here?
I told you, my sister's life depends on me.
Oh, don't give me that shit. I thought you were donating a kidney or something.
What kind of vigilante are you?
I am not a vigilante. I am just trying to get home to my little girl's birthday. And if everybody will stay out of my way, then nobody will get hurt. I don't know what you're up to. But I'm gonna tell you it's gonna stop right now.
No, it's not going to stop. It's going to go on and on until you face up to your responsibilities.
What responsibilities?
I'm pregnant. I'm going to have our child.
Alex, that's your choice, honey. That has nothing to do with me.
I just want to be a part of your life.
Oh, this is the way you do it, huh? Showing up at my apartment?
You have concerns.
Yes, not many. A few. One. I have one concern.
This wouldn't have to do with the fact that one of us is president.
You like to make jokes about this, but
I am not mocking you, honest. I'm just a guy asking a girl over for a meal.
What's that?
That's my ride.
You didn't happen to call our house last night, did you?
I think I might have, yes.
What do you think you might have said?
I think I might have said I was in love with you.
I show up for the rehearsal and I look at the black piano. I think, black piano, black tuxedo. Who is gonna see me in this giant clamshell? Well, I ask you, can you see me now?
Does this mean you apologize?
Table for two, please.
One flew over the cuckoo.
Extended round of applause for Coolidge member, staff member, Ann Continelli, who put that together for us. Now it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage the host of WGBH's Open Studio, Jared Bowen and Michael Douglas.
Hey! For you. Hey, Jared. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for being here. Congratulations on the Coolidge Award.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you very much. And Kathy, for your very nice words. But enough about me. What about you? Michael, it was lovely. And Anne, who put this, this takes a little bit of time putting one of these things together. So I was really impressed. Thank you so much, wherever you are. Very, very nice to you.
So I know I'm truncating the line, but greed is good. Michael Douglas, what did you do to America?
I don't know. It was like, I was thinking about another line from Falling Down. I'm the bad guy?
I'm the bad guy?
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
it was such a good story, and there was such a great villain. And then I'd go around town, and all these drunken Wall Street guys say, "You're the man, you're the man." I go, "Wait, I went to jail. I went to jail." No, that's all right, no. And I don't know what happened. It was one of the most bizarre reactions I ever had. And I said, no, I went to jail. You remember? No, please. So it was fun. One of the best premieres we ever had in New York City, when we got to show it in front of a lot of that crowd, and we kind of caught them. Oliver Stone did a brilliant job in the verisimilitude and the detail and the research that we spent studying it. And it was fun seeing some of these guys, a little uncomfortable moving around.
How do you reconcile who that character is today? Did your characters change when you go back and look at them?
Well, that guy looks like small change. Gordon looks like, he was talking about tens of millions, and at a time when we're up to billions. So, unfortunately, some things haven't changed. I don't see my movies after I make them. I love the process of making movies, and I'll see them usually either before they come out or at a premiere, and then that's it.
Why is that?
I'm a news and sports junkie, and I waste a lot of time while watching, sports. Why? Because you don't know how it's going to end. That's what I love about sports. Most movies I can kind of guess the ending about halfway through, although one picture, it's always funny, the pictures that people tend to really like, and one was The Game. The Game was a movie for me. Thank you. But people like that because they couldn't guess the ending of the picture. And of course, news right now, it's the greatest soap opera you have ever seen. You can't believe what's happening. Every day something new.
You were the voice of news for NBC.
I was there for a while until Brian got removed. Brian Williams asked me one time to be the voice, and I was NBC News until poof. It took a little exit for a little while.
So to go back to your childhood, I know you grew up on this coast, the East Coast, and going back and forth as your father was on the West Coast. Both of your parents were actors. Did it just seem predestined? Was it in the DNA that this was going to happen to you?
If it was, I didn't know, because I had no interest in acting. I talked about being a lawyer. Probably was a natural hostile gesture by a young son. Maybe healthy, but I had no interest in acting whatsoever. I didn't know what I was going to do. Best I did was, I kind of grew up in the East Coast in private schools, ended up going to prep schools and boarding schools. They were all boys at that time. And finally, when I came to graduation from prep school for college, and you go to your college guidance counselor, I remember he was sort of like a travel agent. He'd have these brochures you'd go through, and I was just looking. I said, "Wait a minute, stop." And I pulled this brochure out, and it said, "Campus by the Sea." And I was in school in Waterford, Connecticut, and there's no Ivy League buildings, no nothing. This was 1963, and the brochure just had a guy walking down the beach with a surfboard, and two girls in two-piece bathing suits. Now, if you remember back here in '63, you did not see a two-piece bathing suit, So I said, I'm going there. And that was the University of California at Santa Barbara. Yeah. And I still have just a wonderful choice. However, they did ask me after the first year maybe to take a little break. And kind of to grow up, and so I went off and I got my first award, which was in that year when I was gone. I was Mobile Man of the Month, and I worked in a local mobile gas station and back there, and had a great time. and came back and then became a hippie. Yeah. And had just a joyful, wonderful time until I was in my junior year. And the vice chancellor called me into the office and said, "You got to declare a major. You can't keep taking general education courses. You're a junior in college. You got to get a major." Far out, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. So I just said theater. You know, my mom was an actress, is an actress, and of course my dad was. So I thought it would be easy. It wasn't like out of a passion. I started, and I was terrible. I was really bad. And
first of all, when you said Mobile Man of the Month, I suddenly had the Burt Reynolds centerfold.
No.
So none of that came with that?
No, this is hard to remember for a lot of people, but there was a time when you went in to get your gas, when the gas attendant, you know, washed your window, checked your tire pressure, checked your oil, checked the water in your tank and everything else like that. And I guess one of their guys, inspectors, was around when I was doing my job, you know.
So back to acting, you said you're not very good, and your father kind of reinforced that, from what I understand.
Well, he came, yeah, I mean, bless him, he came to my first shows and he said, "Michael, you're terrible." You're, you know, and I think relieved knowing, you know, we're in a union that runs at about 90% unemployed, and here he was a big star, and, you know, and he saw the first efforts and they were bad. I remember one of my first acting jobs was a messenger speech in Much Ado About Nothing, and the director he taught me how to sort of stand, you know, how to stand. And as it turned out, my entrance was down the aisle of the theater, and I had to stop. And of course, I had to stop right where my father was sitting. And I learned, and I went, "My lord," and then I went, "Yeah, there was a thing of somebody of the things, one thing that's not so big." And I ran back up, and the whole audience said, "What did he say? What did he say?" And that was that. And then, you know, Dad said, you know, well, okay.
Was there ever a point at which he acknowledged who you had become?
Yes, he did. I was a grinder and was at it. I had terrible stage fright. I used to have a wastebasket and would get puke before I'd go on stage. I was so nervous. And about a year and a half later, I did a Michel de Gilderode play called Escurial, and he came back and said, "Michael, you were good. Yeah, you were good."
Yeah, I was thinking, I was having a conversation recently with friends, this was just last week, and we were talking about how no matter how old you are, you're still your parents' children, and the dynamic doesn't change. Is that the case even when you're in your 70s and your dad is about to be 102?
My dad's going to be 102 next week. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. No, it doesn't. I mean, he still looks at me and I go, what did I do? What did I do? You know? And that's probably why, for me, the year of, we're together, the year of Fatal Attraction, and then 3 months later, Wall Street came out and I got the Oscar. I think it particularly meant a lot for me because I did feel like I was out of his shadow. You know, there's a lot of businesses of fathers and sons. The irony in show business, as incestuous as it is, there's a very short list of second-generation kids that have succeeded. And part of it's a double-edged sword, because half of you is, you know, growing up or starting acting, they go, "You look just like your father." And you go, "Oh, yeah, okay." You go, "Oh, that's just like your dad. Your dad does that," you know? So you have a really tough time sort of finding your thing. So, you know, my father he was this really fierce guy. And I sort of did the sensitive young man early in my career. And that didn't go so well. And then I went back and looked at my father's career, and he also played the sensitive young man early in his career until he did a little independent movie called The Champion in 1950, where he played a boxer. And that sort of changed his whole career around. And so I guess for me, I learned sort of early on to have more fun sort of playing rascals. I like rascals. And I said earlier today, but I think it probably influenced a lot by the 60s. And while I was going through college, the Vietnam War was going on to a large extension. That was my first acting, really. We used to have a guerrilla group that would bust into school classrooms at the campus. I would bust in, and someone would come in behind me with a gun and would shoot me, and I would have a blood bag and blow the bag. All the girls would scream, you know, holy hell, and then pick ourselves up and said, that's what's happening right now in Vietnam. And we'd run like hell before the police, you know, came and got us. And those were the first efforts. But anyway, I guess for me, what it was it was this gray area. There were no black hats and white hats, no heroes and villains. The world was much grayer. And so I've always sort of been attracted to these ambivalent characters, people that have a degree of malice in them, and struggling to maybe do the right move or not.
It's funny, I was just debating, and I took too long debating in my head whether I asked this question, because I generally don't, but is there a character that you're most fond of in thinking back along those characters that you like so much?
Well, no, you work as hard on your failures as your successes. You know, you really do. You work just as hard. I think it's more like films. My advantage as an actor is because I produce. So I think what's really helped me out is that I always look, when I get a script for the part, there are actors who just thumb through to find their role, you know, to see what they're doing and everything else and make the decision. I read the script. I mean, I read the piece. That's the foundation. That's the blueprint. That's the skeleton. And if I read it and I'm moved by what I read, that whole script, then I'll go back and review it and analyze it structurally to see if it really makes sense. And then I'll look at the part, you know, because I know it's a good movie. And a lot of this comes out of when I began my career in the streets of San Francisco. We got some, we definitely have some old people here. But, you know, well, Streets of San Francisco had a prologue, 3 acts, and an epilogue, and you do 104 hours of those, and you learn a lot about structure. And then you have the added advantage of having guest stars every week. You're the regular star, so you learn how to make other actors feel comfortable, how to make them be their best. So these are all the things which, even when I'm not producing as an actor, and most of the time when I'm sort of like the lead or, you know, in these pictures, I embrace other actors. I want them to be as comfortable as possible, to make them as good as they can. I want the material to be as good as it can, and the parts fall where they may. I mean, you know, Sharon Stone had a great part in Basic Instinct. I had a great part in Wall Street. Nothing you can do about that except kick ass if you got it, you know? Other than that, you just want the level to be as high as it can be.
Going back to the streets of San Francisco, what kind of figure was Carl Malden to you?
He was my mentor. I loved the guy. Carl came out of Gary, Indiana, you know, the steel mills. You know, I was second generation. He reminded me, you know, when he talked about Gary, Indiana, he reminded me how blessed we were to have this kind of career, to work this way. He taught me his work ethic, his tenacity. He had a deal where he would not start a new episode unless he had next week's episode written. So every time we had a break while we were shooting that show, we would go rehearse and run the lines for next week's episodes. So the writers hated us because the scripts had to be like 5 or 6 pages longer simply because we picked up our cues. We knew, and it was great. So guest stars would come up to San Francisco where we shot it and say, you better be on your toes. Those guys, they move. So he was a lovely man, and in those kind of cop shows back then, The second lead, the second banana, was sort of a foot and a half back in soft focus. You know, the lenses couldn't hold you, so it was always like Carl was here, and I was kind of soft back there. And he was the first one. He said, Mike, come on, come here, come on, go on up and take over. But I will tell you the story. The first day we were shooting, we were at the top of Nob Hill in San Francisco, and it was getting late, and there was a knock on my door. But we got to get a shot before the light. What? Just you go out. You just take the car, driving around Carl. You put the gumball up on top of the thing. You go past the Fairmont Hotel down the hill. Said, okay. Now I prided myself on driving. I used to race a little bit with Formula F cars and this and that, and was a good driver. So I said, all right, let's get in the car, action. So we take the car, we go around, Carl puts the gumball, go past the Fairmont and the hill, we go off the hill, and all I know is I have enough time in midair to look over at Carl. He looks at me, and then I kept it straight, you know. I said, oh my God. Carl got out of the car and said, that's not driving, that's not driving. I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my job the first day I'm here. That's not driving. I'm going back to my trailer and change my underwear. So he was great.
So I think a lot of people don't realize that your first big foray, your Oscar-winning foray in film, is Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Where you produced.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think a lot of people, this audience is aware, they know that your father had the rights, but I'm wondering if you were ever tempted to put yourself in the film.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, somebody asked me earlier, were you thinking about Jack's part? I said, I was 29 years old. You know, I mean, I was just beyond. I had read the book in school. Dad had acquired it in galley forms in 1960. He'd gone back right after Spartacus, the top of his fame. He'd gone back to New York. He developed it to do it as a play. He did not succeed. Excuse me. He tried for years to get it made in a picture, couldn't. And I started my career. And I loved this book, and then he was selling it, and I said, look, let me try to run with it and try to get it set up. And so I started before Streets of San Francisco started, and I was fortunate enough to find my partner, Saul Zantz, up in Berkeley, California, and by coincidence was near where I'm shooting Streets. And so I left the show. In the 5th year, everybody thought I was nuts. It was a big hit television show. Been doing it for 4 years, and finally I was able to get the picture together. So I left the TV show to produce Cuckoo's Nest, and it was just one of those great Wonder Boy moments.
Well, knowing how you just described how you review a script and process it, did you know what you had with that film?
Well, when we were shooting it, I mean, though we had the script, but when we were shooting it, yeah, it was, and we had Milos Forman, may he rest in peace. We lost him this last year, a wonderful director. Didn't let the actors sort of see the dailies or what they were shooting. And our cameraman, Haskell Wexler, also a phenomenal, talented guy, but I think there was a directing frustration about him, was sort of winding the cast up a little bit about things. And so we're having a little bit of a mutiny at one point. And I finally, you know, really encouraged Milos to have Jack to see what was going on, because it was magical. And I've had in acting classes, I've taken 1,000-foot, which are 10-minute reels, which are just reaction shots on Jack in group therapy sessions where he has nothing to say. He's just watching the interaction between the other patients, and you can't take your eyes off it. So we knew we had something special, and I'm very blessed to Saul Zantz, who again we lost a couple of years ago, who went on to win Oscars for Best Pictures with Amadeus in the next decade, and The English Patient after that. But we finished that, we made that picture, we finished it like the final picture that you saw that won all those Oscars, and we went to LA to distribution, and every studio turned it down. The finished picture, what you saw, every studio turned it down. Until we came to United Artists. That time was the last choice, and they said yes. So.
And then who made all the money off it, with your father having the rights?
Well, he and I, well, that's it all. That story. No, he and I gave him half the producing deal, but nothing, you know, he wanted to play that part, but by that he was too old, although he's never forgiven me for it. Yeah. And I understand it, you know, those good parts come along, and he was the first one to say Jack Nicholson was great, and I was just so, thank God the picture turned out okay, you know.
Another actor in that film is Danny DeVito. I was really struck when I was reading that he claims that you corrupted him. Poor little Danny DeVito from New Jersey, you corrupted him.
Which story is it? I don't know. We met, I used to work when I was in college, the last couple of years in the summers, here in New London, down in New London, Connecticut, Waterford, Connecticut, at the National Playwrights Conference at the Eugene O'Neill Memorial Theater. And we used to work on new plays. It was a phenomenally fortunate time for me because it was Israel Horowitz, Lanford Wilson, John Ware, Sam, great playwrights. And I was working that summer with them, and Danny was at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, and he was up with the group doing one show. I know this is hard to believe, but Danny had long hair down to here, and I was still in my hippie mode and this and that, and I remember standing out there looking at the Long Island Sound, and ooh, those foghorns going, this guy came up to me, this little guy comes up to me, and he looks at me, hey, I go, hey, how you doing? Yeah, pretty good, hey. With minutes, and I look at him again, I look up, he said, you get high? I said, yeah. And that was the beginning of a long relationship, and he was my roommate in New York. We were roommates together in 68, 67, 68, and went on. You know, obviously, he was doing the part of Martini off Broadway. When we got to casting Cuckoo's Nest, it was great. And then later on, when I started producing, brought him into Romancing the Stone. But that's why I thought you would talk about, because I was doing these talk shows, you know, promoting this Kaminsky method. People say, yeah, Danny tells me about he saved your life. I said, what? He said, yeah, you were down in Mexico. Yeah, Romancing the Stone. He says, yeah. I said, you got bit by a snake.
I always heard that the best thing to do is, you know, you suck the poison out right away. So I did. Oh, I grabbed his hand. I sucked the, I'm spitting all over the place. And I said, boy, it's a good thing this didn't bite you on the balls, man.
I said, what's he talking about? He said, yeah, I did. I got bit by a snake, but he didn't suck any blood out of me. So.
I did not have any of those conversations with
okay, all
right. The most sordid thing I read was that he had never been in a pool naked until he was with you.
Yeah, that's true. He came up to, when I was the hippie world, we had a little A-frame house up in the mountains in the hills, and we didn't pay a lot of attention to. We had a little tiny pool, but we didn't pay a lot of attention to chlorine and everything. And we used to get a moat, and you go in for a swim, and you come out with a slime line. But we all used to swim naked. He came up as a nice Jersey boy. Well, I don't know. Look at this.
So here you come out of a successful television show. You now have the Oscar, and yet you still couldn't get the...
I couldn't get no as an actor. Well, this is the interesting split between television acting and film acting. So yeah, I'm an Academy Award-winning producer, and I'm getting things going. And after that, I do China Syndrome, which I'm producing and working for a part. But I also developed a picture called Starman, which I was not approved as the actor, so I had to get Jeff Bridges, who was approved to play it, you know, and it's the part I wanted. Yeah, it was a good movie, it turned out great, but I couldn't, so there was this big separation, and the idea being that, well, in television, they can see you for free, but in movies they got to pay to see you. And that separation has existed for a very long time. And before me, there was only really, it was Clint Eastwood and Steve McQueen who had sort of made that transition. But it was very, very difficult, which is, we can talk about later, which is one of the phenomenons of the streaming system that's going on now with the Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, and all of them. Feel better? Good. Good news.
Well, anybody who watches the Kaminsky Method will understand.
Exactly.
So when did you feel that it hit for you?
Which hit? The
that you finally feel confident as an actor, you could.
It was the Fatal Attraction Wall Street year, the commercial success of Fatal Attraction, along with the credibility, is when I was rocking. I mean, things were good and interesting up until then, but then the difficult. Be careful what you wish for, because now my acting career was really taking off. But I was still very successful as a producer, and that was a time where in hindsight, I was doing too much. You know, I had a big production company, I had financing, I was financing movies, and I was not a good manager. I never had a really good, with all due respect to 2 or 3 of the producing partners that I had during that time. I was still left with going off and acting in movies and coming back to a pile of mediocre crap, you know, the scripts that needed rewriting and working, and you come back off a movie, you're exhausted. And in hindsight, I should have gone back to the more simpler, you know, one project at a time that I had started with. But it was a nice problem to have. Yeah.
Did you have to fight your way onto Fatal Attraction?
No, I was on that one early on. I worked and developed it with them. Again, we were having a very, very tough time setting that picture up. We couldn't get any director. We were trying to get a director for it, and I remember Brian De Palma, who was very hot at the time. He said, "I'll do it." He said, "But I don't want to do it with Michael Douglas." And bless Sherry Lansing, who was a wonderful dear friend of mine, a producer, and said, "Well, no, we've been developing with Michael," and they hung in there. It was a good lesson for me to remember about standing up for people at the time. But I was there, but then Glenn was the one, Glenn Close, which was a part you would have never thought for her to do. And she came in and gave one of those knockout, brave as could be auditions. Wasn't afraid, was scary. She was, it was like, whoa. It was like, you know, I said, okay. But she was wonderful, just absolutely great. And Adrian Lyne was there, and yeah, we knew it was, you know, we thought it was going to be pretty good. We didn't quite realize the phenomenon it was going to be. And I guess that's also where I realized and learned on that picture that in my makeup as an actor, I have this ability that audiences forgive me. They let me off the hook. I don't know what it is, but you know, here I am playing a nice adulterer, you know, cheating on Ann Archer. And everybody's saying, "You got to be out of your life, cheating on Ann Archer," you know. And there was a scene after having a night with Glenn Close where I go back to my apartment and my bed. I get in my bed and I mess up the bed and the sheets to make it look like I'd slept there that night. And the audience laughed. And I remember Sherry grabbed, she said, "I can't believe it. They've forgiven you already." I can't believe it. So I think that was when I knew that I could do these sort of more dangerous kind of pictures or a little edgier pictures, and that audiences were willing to go with me a little further.
Glenn Close didn't stay method on you during the filming, did you?
No, well, There is one famous scene when she goes down on me in the elevator, where she did have a lot of margaritas to do that. Cinematically speaking, guys. I mean, come on.
I'm just the PBS guy, not the TMZ guy. So.
That's right. I'm sorry. I forgot.
I mean, but one also doesn't think of humor, a lot of humor with Fatal Attraction, but I have read that Glenn Close talked about how you tried to bring in humor to that film.
Well, I think when you're doing sex in cinema, you've got to find a way to break, otherwise it gets a little uncomfortable. So yeah, there's the one they're talking about, there's a scene where we're going at it in the kitchen, and I have her up on the sink and all of that, and you know, there's different ways. And we were doing Adrian Lyne, who's did flash dance, and he's got a great visual sense, and we were working on the scenes, and I said, well, what should we do now? And he said, well, I could put my fingers back in the water. I said, yes, Aegis, that'd be good. And then I'll take them in the water, then I'll stick them in your mouth. Oh, yes, I like that. That'd be very good. And anyway, so there was a moment where we're doing it, and then we have to get to the bed. And so I realized, and she's straddling me, and I have my pants down, and I just realized, so it became this funny thing, and it allowed the audience, exactly to kind of, to take a little, to take a little break, which is really what you got to do with that stuff.
I mean, thanks to you both, most of us don't think of rabbits the same. Do you think?
It's a bunny boiler. It's a little bunny. She's a bunny boiler. Yeah, it was just a clean concept, and we just executed it well, and it was been repeated a number of times.
While we're on the issue of sex and Basic Instinct, how difficult are those scenes? Is it out of your comfort zone?
In this age of being very careful of what to say, but there is a very close similarity to fight scenes. And when you're doing a fight scene, you choreograph it. So, all right, I'm gonna throw the punch here, I go boom. Then I'm gonna hit you, boom, the stomach, and you're gonna go down, right? So, and then what you do, and then you 1, 2, 3, 4, and you pick up the pace and pick it up, and then you're dancing and you pick it up. I always take assumption of making everybody feel comfortable. And I'm really proud of my history with the ladies that I've worked with, my co-stars. If I go back, from Kathleen Turner to all the way up through all the different ladies that I've done pictures with, that they've given some of their best performances with me. And when it comes to the sex scenes, the most important thing is to make your partner feel comfortable. So nothing is like, nothing to make you feel like that. So you start, it's like a fight scene. You say, okay, I'm gonna put my hand here, okay? Then we'll kiss, kiss, kiss. Now I'm gonna put my hand on your breast, okay? Right, then here, then I'm gonna do this, all right? And then we say, okay, here we go, hand here, kiss, 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 rest, boom, and then you're comfortable, you know what everybody's gonna do, and then you get it up to speed and kind of create that illusion. But I'm here to tell you, there's no wild, that I know about, crazy stuff going on, because it's very difficult, especially when you're close range, because of camera lights, of shadowing each other, and this and that. So it's really creating illusions. Saying that, I was telling these people this afternoon, I remember when we were doing Basic Instinct, there was another actress in the movie named Jean Triplehorn, who did a wonderful job playing my psychiatrist, and she always tells us the story about when she saw the call sheet, which tells you what's coming for the next day, and she's looking at the call sheet and goes, what's this, 12 pairs of rip-away panties? And she said, I guess so. Get a good night's sleep.
And then, of course, that leads us to Matt Damon in and behind the candelabra.
We had a lot of fun. What flavor Blistex would you like today, Matt?
But I would imagine for some actors, it would be so easy to just do the cliche of Liberace. I mean, how did you get beneath that?
Richard LeGravenet's screenplay, really a good screenplay. Again, Matt Damon, Steven Soderbergh. You know, this is really good. They're really talented, good people. Look, I mean, they say, how brave are you? I mean, Matt Damon, man, he's the height of his career. I was so impressed that he wanted to do this. And that picture means a lot to me for a lot of reasons. I had a pretty big cancer bout. I was stage 4 cancer at a time when I lost 2 other friends, Larry Hagman, who had the same cancer I did, who passed away during that. And I really felt for him because he was lucky enough to have this dynasty come. It's Dynasty, isn't it?
Yeah.
That came back.
Or Dallas, yeah.
Dallas, thank you very much. Dallas, and he was in the middle of it, and he got hit. And so he was trying to do low-level radiation so he could still work and all of that. And it just didn't work out. And then another friend of mine, a musician, so I just got over that. Wasn't sure if I was going to act again. It was stage 4, and I actually had back of the tongue cancer, but we didn't say that because we talked about it being throat cancer, because tongue cancer is a connotation of losing your tongue and all that. Anyway, got through it all and back.
Can I just stop you, and you're fully cleared?
Yeah, I'm full clear, thank you. Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, I'm sure we got a whole bunch of cancer survivors here. You just gotta, you gotta keep checking in. Don't not give up checking in. But yeah. But anyway, so I was so excited about the possibility of doing this. It came up, and then after Matt came up to me and said, I got this one other thing. I can't do it now. We'll do it like next year. And Steven Soderbergh said the same thing. I'm so sorry. And I went, oh man, it's not going to happen. I thought it's not going to happen. But what they knew, which I didn't know, is they took a look at me, and of course, I was happy to be alive. The fact that I was maybe 35 pounds underweight and was not looking right to play Liberace, they took it on themselves. So they gave me that extra year to get my weight on. And of course, for me, it allowed me just to be a fiend in rehearsal with the piano stuff, and thank you very much with the voice and all that stuff.
Wow! He's incredible.
Did you ever encounter Liberace, especially through your father's circles?
I did. I mean, briefly. I remember him only in passing, visiting my father in Palm Springs one day, and this Rolls-Royce convertible went down with the top down, and this guy, hi, Kirk, and he was like, how are you? And I was looking in the sun, it was like bouncing off these guys' gold, things and all of this. And I said, who is that? I said, and he was a lovely, lovely guy, a wonderful host down there, and an extremely hard worker.
And who did you see him? I mean, he was a man of such contradiction. How did you look at him? Who did you think he was?
I thought he was pretty straightforward. I mean, he was, he had this wonderful character he created, and the piano playing, and he had a lovely heart, in sense, and extraordinarily successful. I mean, I had no idea he had I think it was 13. He has the record at Radio City Music Hall, 13 sold-out performances in a row.
So let's talk about the Kaminsky method. I mean, and you. Yeah.
Oh well. Wow, it's so nice to, just has come out. I've been really surprised or impressed how many people have seen it, so it's great.
Well, one of the things I want to ask you is, I was stunned to learn, because you and Alan Arkin have such great chemistry in this series.
Thank you.
But then I'd read that you not alone hadn't worked together, you hadn't even met.
Well, I met him, I mean, before I was ready because I loved him as an actor, and I was ready, you know, I was already doing it, and they said with him and Alan Arkin, he's great. But Alan said, I want to meet him, you know, so I went to meet Alan, and yeah, we met once, and then we were in there, and I think the second day was that Musso Frank scene in the first episode, and after the scene, I looked at the screen, the replay, and I said, oh wow, I believe those guys have been friends for 40 years, you know, and that again, that is great writing. Chuck Lorre got a great, he's just wonderful writing, and Alan's just a fabulous actor. And sometimes it makes it so simple. If you can, then you just kind of relax, and you really, it's the joy, what we call the joy of acting, which took me a long time to find out. I worked hard at it early on, and with not a lot of joy. And the second half of my career has been much more a sense of comfort and the joy of acting.
Does that mean it also comes more easily to you now?
It does in ways, because, well, I think somebody told me earlier in my career, you know, the camera can tell when you're lying. Ooh, so the camera can tell when you're lying. And so I used to act like, you know, wiping the makeup off, getting down to your skeletal, you know, kind of a method acting. It was all painful, and then it was actually as late as Fatal Attraction, and I was getting ready to prepare for Fatal Attraction. All right, who's the character? All right, he's a lawyer in New York. I said, well, I could be a lawyer in New York. I said, yeah, and he's an adulterer. Well, I could be an adulterer. You know? could be. And then basically I said, wait a minute, I can play that part. Who's me? I mean, I am. And then I said, no, it's about lying. I mean, most of us tell a white lie once a day, maybe once a week, but acting is about lying. And once I realized that, I sort of broke out in this, you know, laughter. And it's like John Lovett's character, the liar. Yeah, that's right, yeah. And you just sort of, you know, it just freed you up, because it's about convincing somebody, isn't it? It's about lying, and it doesn't matter what I'm saying as long as you believe me. Of course, when somebody picked me up the other day, because it's exactly the opposite of my character in this series, the Kaminsky method is an acting teacher. And of course, his method is talking about all about the truth. And I say, I'm talking about the lie.
How is it to work for Netflix now? The industry, we're watching it all change now.
It's a phenomenal change. I mean, Silicon Valley has swooped down into Hollywood and eaten it up in about the last 2.5 years. It's a phenomenon. It's a wonderful opportunity the streaming has brought to us, all of these additional outlets. So for the creative people, I mean, writers, producers, musicians, you know, actors, it's incredible. So when they came to me, you know, I was not thinking about getting into television, although the kind of character-driven movies that I have done historically, it's just hard to do these days. People are into remakes and tentpoles, and the smaller pictures is harder to get. It's one of the wonderful things about the Coolidge Corners, and I'm so proud to see all the support that you all are doing for this sort of situation, because it's a fabulous, fabulous theater and a great opportunity to do that. Saying that, and I'm going to get to Behind the Candelabra, we tried very much like Cuckoo's Nest. To every single studio was a feature film. It wasn't expensive. Matt Damon, me, this, that. Everybody turned it down. HBO said yes, absolutely. Then I went over to Cannes. They took the film over to Cannes, and the film was shown theatrically around the world, in other theaters theatrically. We went to Cannes, showed it there. All the gossip was I was sort of like the favorite for the Best Actor award, and Steven Spielberg was the head of the jury at that time, and sort of put the kibosh on the film because it was an HBO cable film. And he's been very outspoken. He's got a good argument he makes about it. Getting back now to Behind the Candelabra, so when they offered, they sent this to me, and the writing was so good, and then it's a half-hour comedy, but then it doesn't have to be a half hour. It could be 25 minutes, could be 40 minutes. No commercials. You can say anything you want. It's like a little movie. And then we'll do 8 of them. 8 of them won't take any longer than a feature film will take. So this has been, I said, I love this. This is great. And all the slogging around that I used to do for some of my indie pictures where I was the marketing budget going out on talk shows and all this. So it's been a wonderful area, you know, and I think the real reason I'm saying this is I think this argument about film versus television, maybe more about pay television with commercials and all of that, versus streaming, which is just another way of seeing movies.
Looking at the character of Kaminsky, I know you didn't write it, but is there autobiography here in this character?
For me?
Yes.
Well, I've had a little bit of success. Sandy hasn't.
I said a little bit of autobiography.
A little bit. Well, it's age appropriate, you know. It's age appropriate. I mean, I loved it. I said, how can you not love a show that's finding humor about getting old? You know, something, finding it funny and finding the jokes, and you know, whether it's IP and Morse code, you know, or whatever, whatever it might be. You know, I mean, it's a joy. I guess, you know, it being a little bit of an inside Hollywood story in terms of it, you know, my best friend's an agent. There's any part you do, there's a part of you, you know, that's in there. Some are more caricatures than others. I find I'm a hair actor. I do a lot of hair. I mean, you start from the top, and I look back at like Falling Down with the buzz cut. Or a picture people don't talk about a lot was a picture I did in Japan with Andy Garcia that liked a lot, which I totally forgotten the title of. Black Rain. That's what happens, see? And that one I did a little bit of a curl look, but you know, so some of them. Gordon Gekko, a lot of it came from the clothes and the dress, and other things come from the inside, and you kind of find a mix of ways to get there.
Well, my last question before you get the prize is, how long will you keep going?
Oh, there's why some? I love what I'm doing. I mean, I get scared. You know, I mean, I have areas. I'm a UN messenger of peace, so I'm focused on nuclear disarmament. I really had hoped. Thank you. You know, to me, in my lifetime, I really had hoped to eliminate nuclear weapons, and I'm afraid it's not going to happen. But it's particularly right now, I'm afraid to say, this is as difficult or as awkward or scary a time as I ever remember since the Cold War, which is going on, the possibility of loose nukes. I work with Michael Bloomberg's group, Every Town USA, which is a handgun control organization. Which is doing, really having some good effect, and a group called Represent Us, which if you get a chance to check them out on their website, which is doing a wonderful area locally, eliminating gerrymandering and taking out well, there's an insane. We all know about the insane amount of money in our presidential and senatorial and congressional elections. But there's a whole bunch of outside money that's coming into local judgeships and local council races in cities and towns, which has really been really dangerous. And so they're working in that area. So yes, I love to do that, but as long as you know, I'm still standing or can wheel me around. Catherine, my wife Catherine's 25 years younger than me, and she always jokes around. Thank you. She, by the way, has a wonderful series coming out on Facebook, who's also going that, which is a really, really good series I like a lot. But anyway, we always joke about, oh, honey, you know, we just had our 18th wedding anniversary, maybe about 18 more years from now. I said, honey, I'll be wheeling you around. I'll be wheeling you around. I said, where are we going? And she'll lean over and she says, Cartier, honey, Cartier.
Michael Douglas, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks very much for coming. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do I come down? Oh, thank you.
Hard to match you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Michael.
And thank you for everything you've done today. We are so excited to give this to you.
Well,
and you can take it right over to the BU Howard Gottlieb Archival.
This is very nice.
Or it's good curls to stage.
I need ready for that.
At any rate, the culmination will be brief. On behalf of the Coolidge Corner Theatre, our board of directors, our staff, everyone here tonight, and the entire Coolidge community, which is a pretty big community.
Yeah, yes, it is. Right.
We are very proud to honor you with the Coolidge Award for your artistry, your passion, your vision, and your depth of humanity.
Oh, whoa, wow. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Al. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All you guys. Thank you. Thank you. All right, all I can say, keep up your support for Coolidge Corners, all right? It's a wonderful environment. And thank you for being so nice. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks so much.
I'm going to give you one last note. Just, many of you have heard the word mensch. Some of you may have not. It's a wonderful word, and it talks about wonderful people. This man is a mensch.
Wow.
With every Coolidge Award, we provide a significant financial honorarium to the award recipient. This gentleman has said, I want to give it back to you to support as my gift to the Coolidge Corner Capital Campaign.
Wow. Yeah, good. Thank you. You do it. You guys got... You've got the best hors d'oeuvres. The hors d'oeuvres are so good. Good here. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's still live. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks for supporting us. Thank you, Coolidge staff. We'll be doing some celebrating there. And thank you, Michael Douglas.
Thank you all for coming.